Hello and welcome, folks, to this special edition of Legal View with Michael Ayala. I have a very special guest today. I want to thank her so much for joining me. Dr. Sonny Slaughter is with me, and Dr. Slaughter is a founder and chief executive officer of Sonny Slaughter Consulting, LLC. That's a boutique advisory firm based in Washington, D.C. She's also an internationally recognized criminal behavior analyst and profiler, law enforcement instructor, jury consultant, expert witness, and media legal analyst, also a regular guest on Court TV, where, well, that used to be my home. It is not my home anymore. Dr. Slaughter, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Michael. And just call me Sonny. You know, we have a relationship here.
Yes, we
So,
do. Yes, we
and
do.
thank you for having me and
Yeah,
congratulations on your show.
thank you.
It
Thank
was
you.
an honor to always be with you on Court TV, your legal lens, your law background, your media background, journalism. I love being on with you. And so it is an honor to be on your show, The Legal View, and have this very poignant conversation about the case that I've covered and you've
Mm-hmm.
covered. And so
Mm-hmm.
we've been covering it although on different channels to be able to have this conversation with you today, um, because I think we bring a different lens, experience, and exposure to this particular conversation, even though some people want to write it off and say, no, well, yeah, these are the
Yeah.
conversations we need to have.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show because of your particular expertise. Because there are questions that I have about this case. And I've dug into some of the writing that you've done on the case and really found it interesting. And I wanted to bring it to my audience as well. And to me, a lot of what I do here is about my own curiosity and hoping that other
Yeah.
people find that interesting as well. And so let me start right there with some of the work that you've done on the case. Obviously, you've had to dig into it and you've become
Yeah.
very familiar with the case. So I want to start off just by getting a general sense from you of what you think about the case, not only what you think happened, just generally, because the case is so fraught with polarization
Oh.
and all the things that are going around. It's amazing. This thing has caught on and is just burning up the internet.
And I like the way you put that analysis, that lens that it has caught on and burning of the internet. It has it's like a spark that triggered a flame that has become a wild um a wild conversation on social media. The Carmelo Anthony case, I covered it on Court TV, and as you said, I've been writing about it, you've been writing about it, I've been looking at your context and content. And I think that this case became polarized because of where the country is today.
Hmm.
And today, when I talk about today, I lived off and on in Alabama for 30 years and done a lot of work around human rights and civil rights, and had very specialized training in uh, uh, racism and bias and hate. I did federal training I was educated federally by the Department of Homeland Security through a very specialized course for law enforcement professionals. And they allowed me to do this along with the Southern Law Center. So when I think about this case, I think about it from uh, how racialized and polarized it became on social media. What started out as a criminal case between two young boys, both the same age, 17, but because of their race, Carmelo Anthony being African American and Metcalf being Caucasian, and where it took place in Texas, where the angst and the ill of society really rings true. Why would this kid have a knife? Why would he bring it? Why would he use the words, Don't put your hands on me, just don't touch me, as long as you
Hmm.
don't touch me." And that is not a phrase that is a phrase that's not uncommon to people that look like you, people that look like me,
Yes, yes.
because violence is not always physical. Violence can also be verbal. It becomes the pretext to physical violence. And when you are a person of color, when you are Black, when you are brown, and you feel threatened, what you say to me gets my spirit riled up.
take it back to that initial confrontation because I was of the mind that even that initial confrontation could have and probably was racially charged. And
Yes.
by that, I mean, I think Carmelo Anthony's response to those boys under that tent, let's keep it to those four boys who surrounded him as he was sitting down, they were white.
Hmm.
And when they got there, before they could even figure out what was going on, they made a beeline to him.
Yeah.
And I contend that even that confrontation was racially charged in the way Carmelo responded to them and the way they responded to Carmelo.
Yeah. Because perception is everything.
Mm,
I'm sitting down right now. You're sitting down right now. And as adults, if we were surrounded by white people, people of color that came to us and surrounded us, they were standing above us in a very threatening manner, we would not necessarily retreat. We would listen. That's that verbal confrontation. That's that verbal provocation, and that triggered how I'm going to respond and act, which is why those words become just long, just don't touch me. And
mhm,
as long as you don't put your hands on me. Because the threat, the perception of threat is always with us in some form or fashion.
mhm. Under those types of circumstances specifically.
Absolutely.
And what I didn't like most about what the prosecutor did and why I think he didn't want any black people on that jury, and I've told people that was the original race card thrown in this case,
Hmm.
was that we would A, understand that.
Yes.
And B, when someone says to you, don't touch me, you don't touch them. But they characterized him saying, don't touch me as a threat.
Right.
Not only as a threat, they took it to the next level. It was a provocation, which
Mhm.
boggles my mind that you could claim, I'm telling you, don't touch me, or you're going to
Yeah.
see what's going to happen, that is a threat. I'm actually telling you, don't touch me. I
Yeah.
don't want to be touched. So you
Because
go ahead and
look,
touch me and mess around and find out.
because it is threat. Our perception. This is where, and I know you'll understand this, and some people will understand this. Experience, our lived experiences, what we have been exposed to. I don't care where you grow up. There's an ancestral, historical
Yes.
voice and
Yes.
understanding that you can't have if you don't come from where we come from. I'm not talking about another country. I'm talking from right here in America. If you don't come from a place where you are always surviving,
Hmm. And I don't care if you have money or not. You're living that.
yes,
You're living that experience.
those lived experience, and no matter how high, no matter how much money you have, as a black person, as a person of color, you have assimilated into white America, which means you have those experiences that white America will never have.
Never
And you don't
understand.
have to have been somebody shackled and chained, because the stories and the history and the things that you tell your children and the things that I've told mine, those are passed down generational, just like the racism and the hate that we see now coming from others, that's generational.
No question.
That is passed down. That is linear. They've heard that somewhere. So if I tell you don't F around and find out, I mean, because I've said that to folks. I've said it to people that look like me. They understood what I meant. I've said it to
Right,
people
right.
that didn't look like me,
And they didn't.
and they didn't understand exactly what I meant. The provocation came from them with their presence and the presence that they brought to the
Absolutely.
room.
Absolutely.
And I don't care, was he wrong for having a knife? He protected himself in the way that he thought that he should.
Right.
And none of us were there, and none of us understand it if you don't have that experience. You have to have the lived experience to understand it.
But
We
let me
might
ask
not
you
have
this,
had
son.
that threat. I might not have had that threat recently, but in some time in my 58 years, I've had that threat.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
different
I
than
have it in
somebody
my
calling me the
community
N
pool.
word. Yeah. It's different than
Yeah,
somebody
isn't
calling
it?
me the N word. Cause see,
Right.
that's so overrated.
It
But if you
is.
surround me, then I am in survival mode, not
No
just in my
question.
presence, but in my mind. And that is perception.
But let me ask you about you touched on this about, this sort of ancestral thing that we all have and the stories that pass down. I contend that the polarization that we see, and it's not just polarization, it is angry
Ooh,
polarization.
yes,
People
Lord.
are, I mean, you say something, people are coming at you
Oh,
incredible.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
mention something they don't like, and I think a lot of and I saw some of the interviews done with people, in Texas, in that area, the
mhm,
anger that they had
oh,
at the
yes,
way this case was handled. I know how I felt about it as a professional, having been in courtrooms, that
yeah,
I knew this case wasn't tried zealously or properly. Something was up. We've
yeah,
since found out what it was, this ridiculous deal. But I think the initial response for most people had to do with that, the optics, and then sort
yeah,
of this stored memory. You see an all white jury or a jury of no black people sitting
yeah.
in judgment of a young black boy who killed a white boy. That just it just stirred up the echoes.
It really did. And we cannot separate ourselves from who we are, our lived experiences, our shaped exposure, what we've been exposed to, and how it has impacted us. And even if has not happened to us personally, we all know not one person. We all know too many people.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely right. Online, I am seeing even the people that I'm connected to, I am seeing this level of hate. And I thought about before our conversation, I thought about when Barack Obama was the president and he said that could have been my son.
Oh my God. That was the genesis of MAGA. I'm convinced.
Okay.
I am
And it was just
convinced.
like, but
Yep.
it could have been his son. His mother is white,
Absolutely.
but it could have been his
Hmm.
son.
Sure.
It could have been his son. And the level of hate that you see around like the memes and people didn't want people don't want Carmelo Anthony to go to jail. He's
No,
in
they
prison. They didn't want him to go. They wanted him to die at
die.
17. They said
Hammurabi Code.
because he
That's right.
took away this boy, this 17-year-old kid. I mourn for the Metcalf family because they have
Hmm.
lost a child. I understand what that looks like because I lost a brother in love. I understand that. But they were both 17 years old. And he was there alone. And now we know the deal. Even as I covered the case, I always try to cover cases trying to ensure that I am looking at all sides of it because commentary should and what we do on television and in our podcast should not be about entertainment. It really should be about education
I agree.
because we know not only the media landscape, but we also know the law. We understand the courtroom. We understand process. So I'm never entertaining people when I'm saying things. So I try to stay focused on the relevance of it, but the hate and the things they wanted him dead and what we know historically, because I had to put this out on my Facebook thread, are the numbers of innocent individuals who have been convicted, who remained in prison for decades. There was a black man that just was released after 39 years.
Yeah.
There was a black man, Anthony Hinton, that I met and know personally that was on death row in Birmingham, Alabama. Well, I should say
I know the
Alabama.
case. Yeah, I know the case.
Death row. And this is what they wanted, and this is what people want for Karmelo. They
But
said this is
what was most alarming about it, and I get what you're saying,
yeah.
but what was most alarming is it reminded me of a lynch mob.
uh,
The idea they
That's what
weren't
I was going
even
to say.
concerned about any of the nuance of the case,
Yeah.
because that's where I want to go next in terms of the nuance.
Hmm.
I'm not so sure that that wasn't a crime committed here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm not fully sold on a full self-defense thing, But I
Yes.
certainly did not buy murder, that this
Right.
young man put that knife in his bag that morning, went to the place just to pick a fight so he could find a way to kill someone because of
Yes.
this, whatever was going on in his mind. I just could not buy that. There are degrees to this thing, and I tried to explain it. As you said, I try to explain and talk to people about the law.
Okay.
They didn't want to hear
Right.
anything
No.
about nuance here. This was a
Yeah.
black boy who just wanted to kill. He's a violent person, killed a white boy. He needs to be thrown under the jail, or if they could, they would run him out to a tree and hang him.
Absolutely. And if you've ever seen and ever been in a place where somebody has been hung, I said I lived in
Mm,
Birmingham.
mm,
Okay, I lived in Alabama, where they were hanging people. And lynching has not stopped. I literally just did an article. I commented on an article. I don't. It was either earlier this year or late last year around lynching. But you are absolutely right. You and I and others, well, those of us that actually, some people are commentating and don't actually practice or understand law, and even law enforcement officers don't necessarily understand law. They can read something, but they are not practicing the litigation and that part of it, or have some balance with it. And I did not ever say that he was not guilty because he had the knife and he stabbed him. That is a crime.
yes,
But I never thought that it was murder
exactly.
because there was not enough evidence presented. And because although I train law enforcement, do it on that side, I do a lot of defense work. So when you have the lens like you and I have of all sides of something, you should be able to articulate that because we're trying to explain process of what reality, evidence over. People are so emotional about this case. They want him to die. And I think it was overcharged. And we know what happens when people get overcharged and black boys. We can look at the Central
Hmm.
Park Five for that.
Hmm.
Okay. And the fact that he had an excited utterance when he immediately said, "No, I did it." And
Hmm.
then they used that.
And then right after that, nobody even wants to talk about this. He said, "Is he going to be
Yeah,
all
it's gonna
right?
be yes.
Is he
Be
going to be all right?" Is
because
that sound like a kid who wanted to kill somebody?
no.
And the other thing that always got me, and I try to tell people, but again, I stopped because people don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Mhm.
The stab wound with a 3-inch blade had to be perfectly placed into that boy's body in
Mhm.
order for it to be a kill shot.
Yeah.
And it went right into the heart 2 inches.
Yeah.
There's no way that he planned that. There's no way he aimed for the heart. He was
Yeah.
swinging to protect himself and then get the hell out of there because these guys were surrounding him. And he
Right. Yeah.
just got pushed and didn't want to get jumped on the
Yeah.
bleachers.
Yeah.
Right? To think that he particularly stabbed him with the intent to kill him, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
There was no rationale for the way the case was laid out. It never made sense. I never saw the evidence that compiled these actions into a murder one for 35 years. I never saw that. So, and when I remember when I came back and I was talking about I was outside of the house when I got the call from Court TV. Can you be on the air? So like I was running, like I was trying to tell you, I was
Hmm.
trying to get prepared here. I was literally in my car. I had done something with my puppy, so I was like a little flustered, and I was back in my seat on the air in like 10 minutes after speeding, and I was like, "Whew." So when I said, "Wow," do you know people took that as like, "Oh my God, Sonny can't believe it." No, because I'm actually the person. I'm not like behind the keyboard talking crap. I like do this for a living. So
Right.
yes, I did not see the evidence for that, and the fact that the defense attorney had his mother take the stand, and that's all, no mitigation. They weren't ready. I said I do work for the defense, like a lot, and some
Hmm.
heinous cases that I could never talk about. I'm under an NDA, but I'm like, is that all that he had?
Yeah, no, it was shocking, and we all knew. Any of us who were in the profession knew there was something up here. Either the guy was throwing the case, or the
Yes.
guy. I had thought the case was he lived in that area. He
Yes.
was doing his job, but
Mhm.
he wasn't going to be too vigorous because he had to go back to that community, and he
Uh-huh.
wanted people to continue to come to his firm.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so I think he was just doing the minimum, and this
Yes.
way let the thing play out as it may. But again, it turns out that wasn't the case.